What's up, beautiful people? Welcome to the Made to Excel Fitness Podcast, a fitness podcast for you, by you. I'm your host, as always, Mark Torres. And in today's episode, episode 19, is the coronavirus because you're not vegan? Also, classes in session. We're going to the Made to Excel Fitness University of Hard Knocks of Common Sense. Let's talk about it. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is Monday, July 13th. Hopefully you guys had a great weekend, did some fun stuff in the sun if you had sun. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of today's podcast, we're hopping right into this bad boy today. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of today's podcast, there's one thing I wanted to kind of reiterate and talk about. I meant to talk about this in the last episode, but I forgot. I was kind of everywhere in the last episode. But first and foremost, if you do not follow me on Instagram, that makes me very sad, and you're the reason why I cry myself to sleep every night. So if you do not want me to cry myself to sleep every night, please give me a follow. If you do want me to cry myself to sleep tonight, you're a sadistic asshole. But a couple weeks ago, maybe about 2 weeks ago, I posted a video. It was called Progressive Overload in Action. It was an IGTV video, and it literally got like 11 views, which I totally understand because nobody's scrolling through Instagram wants to watch a 6-minute video. So I might upload it as its own video on YouTube eventually. But this is probably one of the more important, or the most important videos as it pertains to training that I've ever made. I've got lots of videos on nutrition. A lot of those are super important and super useful. But when it comes to actually exercising and training philosophies, that is one of the few that I have that's going to have a big impact on your training, on your fitness journey. So the gist of it is how to put progressive overload into your training itself. So over the past almost 4 months that we've been in quarantine, at least in New York State, obviously it's different everywhere else, every day that I've worked out for at least the first 3 months, I was kind of just winging it, right? I would say, I'm going to work out today, and I would just figure it out on the go, which was fine at first because I didn't know how long this thing was going to last, and I just said, I just want to remain relatively active until I can get back into a normal program. But eventually, 3 months in, I feel like I've said a few times, it looks like have a little bit of an end in sight, and every time that keeps happening, it keeps getting pushed and pushed and pushed. Things are reopening, but cases are still spiking, so who knows what that's going to look like going forward. But about 2-3 weeks ago, I eventually said, all right, it's time to buckle down and really start to get serious about training again. And I thought about that video, and I made that video, and I started implementing that video in my own training as well. So I have a training journal. I know everything that's going on. I have records of everything, and I'm progressive overloading throughout my entire workouts. And my entire workouts have been completely night and day different from the beginning of quarantine, workout 10-15 minutes, lose interest somewhere in the middle, try to finish off strong, but at that point, it was a lost cause. Now, having a plan in place, there's no kind of dilly-dallying. I know what I got to do. I got to get it done. So I've had full workouts, great workouts, the hardest workouts that I've had over the past, almost 4 months. So if you have not seen that video, definitely go to my IGTV and check it out. I implore you, if you're feeling lost in your training, and I might put it on YouTube, so be on the lookout for either one. But definitely go check it out. But anyways, today's episode, I saw this article about a week or two, and I actually wanted to talk about it in the last episode. This is the second thing that I want to talk about in the last episode that I didn't get to, if that just gives you an idea of where my brain was in the last episode. Not because I forgot about it this time, but because the last episode went kind of long, so I didn't want to make it even longer by talking about this. So I figured I might as well make it a full episode this week. So episode 19, I saw this article a couple weeks ago. I haven't read the article, so I'm doing something a little different. I know the title of the article. I saw some people talking about it. I can kind of probably generally guess where the article is going, but I'm going to do a live read here on the podcast, and I'm going to react to it accordingly, right? So obviously, if you got to this point, you've heard the intro, so you kind of know what it's about, but the title of the article is called "The Game Changers Filmmaker James Wilks Claims We Should Consider Switching to Plant-Based Diets for the Sake of Public Health." Now, just for some background information, James Wilks, I've got his Wikipedia pulled up here. James Wilks is an English film producer, vegan activist, and former professional mixed martial artist. A professional from 2003 until 2012, he competed for the UFC King of the Cage and was the winner of Spike TV's The Ultimate Fighter, United States versus the United Kingdom. Then it goes through his UFC career. Wilks is known for his dedication to veganism, and he was the leading role in the film The Game Changers that was on Netflix, right? And it was a documentary advocating a primarily plant-based diet in high-performance sports. And it was produced by James Cameron, so Titanic man himself had to do with Game Changers, which to be completely honest, I didn't watch. It was a big thing a while ago when it came out on Netflix. It was a big debate, and it pinned like the keto carnivore community against the vegan community, and I didn't watch it, to be honest, because these kind of films scare me, and I think that's kind of the point of it. When it comes to veganism, vegetarianism, they're very graphic in nature, and that's kind of the point, to try to push you towards that side of the argument. So I haven't watched it for that reason. I don't know if it's actually graphic or not, but just keep that in mind, that I haven't seen the film, and I'm going to read this article live, right? So once again, the title is The Game Changers. Filmmaker James Wilk claims we should consider switching to plant-based diets for the sake of public health. This was on Men's Health. In an exclusive interview with Men's Health, Wilkes also speaks about athletes and the military following plant-based diets, as well as analyzing his appearance on the Joe Rogan podcast. Okay, so here we go. Try to react to this as quickly as possible. Hopefully this doesn't backfire. Hopefully there's nothing crazy in here that I can't react to, and then I got to scrap this whole podcast. So, it's fair to say that James Wilkes is a passionate advocate for plant-based eating. If you've seen the Game Changers documentary, then you'll know that over the course of 90 minutes, he explores the science that says meat isn't necessary or optimal for athletic performance or health, and you can go further, faster, and for longer while getting most of your calories from plants, nuts, and seeds. Okay, everything's good so far. Fitting over a decade's worth of studies into a 90-minute doc isn't easy, and Wilkes has a lot more to say on the subject. In an exclusive interview with Men's Health UK, he talks about how athletes and the military are increasingly adopting the diet, why plant-based diets are here to stay, as well as explaining how animals have contributed to the situation we currently find ourselves in with COVID-19. So this is really why I wanted to read this article. Right, so first and foremost, I haven't seen Game Changers, but anytime you're watching anything where they have studies, so it says fitting over a decade's worth of studies into a 90-minute doc isn't easy. Anything that has studies in it, always be kind of cautionary about it. I just made a post about it today, so today's Thursday, so a few days back, if you're watching this on Monday or sometime next week, later in the week, about science and reality, in that anybody who has a stance on anything can probably find a scientific study that backs their stance, but then the person who opposes you can probably still find a study that backs their stance. So science, even though it is a method to find the truth in things, isn't always a perfect science in and of itself. So just always be aware of studies, right? I had this whole thing with the What the Fit documentary back in Mythbusting 2 about sugar, right? They had a lot of studies that people went and debunked. So not saying anything bad about Game Changers because I haven't seen it, but just be aware, when studies are involved, they're not always cut and dry, black and white. But he says, he says animals have contributed to the situation we currently find ourselves in COVID-19, and he's using this as a ploy to try to get people to go vegan or vegetarian, whatever. He said, with this lockdown with COVID-19, we know that the root of this is from animals. If you look at the swine flu, the bird flu, all these pandemics, 3 out of 4, I believe it is, start because of animals, whether that's wild animals or whether that's farm animals, says Wilkes. The funny thing is, people say we don't want to spread disease, so we should separate and have this social distancing. Well, what are we doing to animals that are in factory farms? What conditions are they in? It's no wonder that disease is spreading among those animals and that it transfers over to humans. So that's another reason for public health that we should be switching to more plants. So I see what he's saying, and this is kind of where I assumed that this was going to go, right? So he's saying that because we consume animals, because we consume meat, that is why we're exactly in the situation that we are in now, which is not wrong, but I'll address it later. And then it says, the science. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 3 out of every 4 new or emerging infectious disease found in people originate in animals. The zoonotic diseases are common with bird flu, swine flu, and Ebola. COVID-19, according to the World Health Organization, is also thought to have a zoonotic source. Meanwhile, a study into the relationship between agricultural intensification and zoonosis emergence linked expanding human and livestock populations to a rise in disease emergence risk, which increases the potential for pandemics. The research also claims that our current eating habits are unsustainable if we want to both feed the planet and protect health. Sustainable agricultural food systems that minimize the risk of emerging disease will therefore be needed to meet the food requirements of rising global population while protecting human health and conserving biodiversity and the environment, reads the study. eager to find out more about the benefits of the plant-based diet, you need to check out Wilk's full views in full in the video above. So I'm not going to watch the full video. It's 25 minutes long. Yeah, I'm definitely not doing that. So essentially what Wilkes is saying, obviously he's a pro-vegan advocate, is that obviously a lot of these pandemics stem from an animal source. So if we as humans stop consuming animals, we could potentially further in the future avoid more pandemics. So I understand what he's saying. Now, there's a couple different ways to look at this. There's a couple different ways that I can look at this, right? When it comes to veganism or vegetarianism, there's really three main ways to look at it. First is from a health standpoint. Is being vegan more healthy than eating meat? I don't think so. Not necessarily, right? I should say not necessarily. If you are a person that is a very, very unhealthy eater and you go to, and you switch over to being vegan, obviously you're going to take a step in the right direction when it comes to your health. But the limiting factor there is it sustainable for you to do that over a long period of time? Is it something that you can do forever, right? If you are a really unhealthy eater, can you make the switch to vegan just like that? Probably not. So I think if you were to eat, I'm not saying I think, I know if you were to eat a balanced diet, a majority healthy diet, even if it includes meat, you can be just as healthy as somebody who's vegan or vegetarian. So from a health standpoint, I don't think there's any particular reason for you to want to be vegan, unless you really wanted to, right? And that's going to be a big topic of contention between, and I see it all the time, keto and vegans. They always go at it all the time about whether or not vegan is superior or keto is superior. I think from a health standpoint, if you eat a balanced, good diet, even if it includes meat, you can be as healthy as somebody that's on keto. And keep in mind, especially if you want to build muscle, it's going to be harder on on a vegan diet. Possible, of course, but I understand the importance of protein. You need to have X amount of protein in your diet in order to be really optimal, and it's going to be harder to do that on a vegan diet than a non-vegan diet where you're consuming protein, animal protein, right? So from a health standpoint, it's a wash. From an ethical standpoint, that's completely up to you, right? Most people, or I'm not going to say most people because I don't know, but some people do not really care where their food comes from, right? They're going to eat whatever's put in front of them. Myself in particular, I'm not vegan, I'm not vegetarian, but I would like to take steps in the direction to kind of go that way as much as possible, right? I don't think I'll ever do a full jump into vegan vegetarianism, but from an ethical standpoint, as an animal lover, I would like to not contribute as much to animal cruelty in terms of my diet. And I don't eat a whole lot of meat to begin with. It's really just mainly beef and chicken, and not even that much beef to begin with. Pork almost never, unless it's pepperoni or bacon. So I don't have a big, footprint when it comes to eating a whole lot of meat protein as it is. So I would like to continue to keep going forward in that direction as much as possible, right? Because I'm an animal lover, and I hate to think about the animal cruelty that comes from this, but some people just don't care. So from an ethical standpoint, that's completely up to you. If you're an animal lover, odds are you're going to want to be more and more on the vegan vegetarian side than the keto side. You don't want to, if you're an animal lover, you don't want to be keto because you're just consuming animal protein out the wazoo at that point. And from a environmental standpoint, I think it's pretty safe to say that if we were to consume less meat as an entire civilization, that would have a profoundly positive effect on the environment. Kind of like, when this whole COVID-19 thing started and everybody went inside, the earth started to heal itself. Waters became clearer, the air became clearer. People were seeing mountains that they'd never seen before. People were seeing, water that they'd never seen so clear before in their lives. And the earth started to heal itself a little bit because humans started to go inside. And I think you would have that same effect if people started to eat less and less meat. But once again, I think there's one thing that James Wilkes is really overlooking here, and it's this idea that just because science says one thing does not mean people will act accordingly, or for that matter, appropriately. Let's look at today's day and age, right? We've got this small little thing going around the world called the coronavirus, and multiple health experts have said the best way to slow down the spread of COVID-19 is by covering your face, and practicing social distancing. Wear a mask and stand or be at least 6 feet away from your fellow human being that you haven't been in quarantine with up to this point. And of course, obviously, when that starts to come out, naturally there's an opposition that begins to occur and people start to fight back against that idea. And these people say, I'm an American citizen, I've got my freedoms, I'm a free person, you can't tell me what to do. Bearing in mind the fact that a police officer can pull you over if you're driving too fucking fast on the highway and give you a ticket, thereby kind of telling you what to do, but I digress. And then these people will say, all right, you're infringing on my freedoms, you can't tell me to wear a mask, you can't mandate me to wear a mask, I don't like wearing a mask, I can't breathe when I wear a mask, which is an ironic statement in and of itself, but that's a topic that's not well suited for this podcast. But they'll say, I don't like wearing a mask, so I'm not going to wear a mask. Now, these people may as well be spitting directly into your face because they're telling you through their actions that they have so little value, they care about your life so little that they will not be minorly inconvenienced by wearing a mask. And don't get me wrong, wearing a mask sucks. A lot of them are uncomfortable, they don't fit well, they slide around. Don't get me started on if you burp in your mask. I've made that mistake a few times. So wearing a mask is not fun. And especially if you're a person that works 8, 10, 12 hours consecutively in a mask, you have even more reason to be upset. But if you're going into a grocery store and you're only going to be there for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes max, and you're still not wearing a mask, I don't understand it, right? And that's where these viral videos come from, of people being confronted about not wearing a mask, and then they throw a temper tantrum, they start throwing their groceries. There was an old lady that sat down in the middle of Costco because she didn't wear a mask. There was a guy that started yelling, I feel threatened, because he didn't wear a mask, and people asked him to wear a mask, and people asked him to stand back a little bit. And people are going into a grocery store for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes max and not wearing a mask. They're literally putting your life in danger. This is literally a matter of life and death. Shout out to my boy Bill Nye the Science Guy's TikTok video. He literally says this is a matter of life and death. If you somehow, some way got into contact with coronavirus and you didn't know that because you were asymptomatic and you're walking around fucking Costco without a mask on, and you expose a little old lady to coronavirus, to COVID-19, now she has COVID-19, she may not be asymptomatic like you were. She might have to fight this virus and she might lose this battle. So you might have been the direct cause of killing this person. This is literally a matter of life and death, and people will not be bothered to be inconvenienced for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes by wearing a mask in a grocery store. And then they have the audacity to tell you that you're a sheep and that you're going to do anything that the media tells you to do. And once again, don't get me wrong, I understand the power and the influence of media, especially in this day and age. I have a whole podcast episode about it. The dark side of social media was 2 weeks ago's episode. But the media is not telling you to give up your house. The media is not telling you to give up 50% of your income to help fight coronavirus. The media is asking you to cover your fucking face. That's it. And they say, oh, but at the beginning, they just said we didn't need masks. So what happened? What changed? So you're telling me that you're literally, you're outing yourself. You're admitting the fact that once something is confirmed scientifically, it can no longer be reversed going forward. It's a scientific fact now, so it's a scientific fact forever. So by deductive reasoning, the people that don't wear masks in grocery stores are the same people that still believe the earth is flat, aka they're stupid idiots. So James Wilkes, I understand what you're saying. I concur with a lot of what you're saying. I would like myself personally, and this doesn't have to, I'm not pushing these ideas on anybody else. For ethical reasons, I would like to be more vegan, vegetarian. But if people are literally not wearing masks, even though it's a matter of life and death, and to be completely fair, I see way more people wearing masks than not wearing masks. It's a very small minority. And I said American because I'm an American citizen, and I see that, and I'm sure this is a problem elsewhere around the world. But if people are not wearing masks, and this is a matter of life and death, imagine what it would be like to tell people to stop eating meat. It's their right to eat meat. To try to get everybody to go vegan vegetarianism, or to go vegan or vegetarian, which I don't think is what James Wilkes is necessarily doing, is way out there. It's a way out there idea. It's never going to happen. Even if everybody were to consume one less meal that has animal protein in it per week, there's 8 billion people on the planet. Over 52 weeks, it's like 400 plus billion less meals that were animal protein based. Think of how many animals that would save. Think of the profound positive impact that would have on the environment, but even that's super unattainable. So I understand what James Wilkes is saying, but I think he's missing a big point here. And I understand that he's advocating for his cause. There's nothing wrong with that. But also, I understand what James Wilkes is saying by eating meat is what caused coronavirus, because coronavirus came from a bat, right? I think it's a bat or a pig, whatever. So he's saying if people didn't eat meat, we wouldn't have coronavirus. But that's like saying if people didn't inhabit the earth would be really healthy. So are we going to kill everybody to make sure that the earth is really healthy? No, of course not. So I understand what James Wilkes is saying, but I think the way he tried to say it didn't make sense, and he probably lost a lot of people. I understand the connection he tried to make, but you're still an idiot too for saying it the way you said it. You're not going to convince society to not eat meat. So that was the little meat and potatoes of that podcast. Didn't go too bad. Live reading, I was a little nervous. I thought there was going to be something crazy in there that I wasn't expecting and was going to catch me off guard, and I wasn't going to be able to say anything about it. But such is life. But anyways, now we're only 20 minutes in, so I got a little bit of time for a new segment. This is called the Made to Excel Fitness University of Hard Knocks of Common Sense. Mark Torres, Made to Excel Fitness University of Hard Knocks of Common Sense. So essentially what this segment is going to be is just a mini myth-busting series. So obviously I have myth-busting episodes, but going forward, this Made to Excel Fitness University of Hard Knocks of Common Sense is going to be a mini myth-busting. So things that could be myth-busted, but don't necessarily need to have an entire episode about it. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was, if I can find it, there is this product that's going around Facebook. And I'm not going to say the name of the product. I'm not going to say the name of where I got it from because I would be outing these people. But this is a product. It's apparently the number... I'm not even going to say that because it's apparently a weight loss product. It accelerates the burn and shrinks your fat cells. Not a thing. Tones and tightens, especially around the middle. Legit, that lower belly pooch is bye-bye. Not a thing. Hair is healthier, feels amazing, results have been mind-blowing, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to read this whole thing because then it becomes pretty obvious what I'm talking about, and I don't want to put anybody on blast. But this is a thing, and the reason why I want to talk about this is the fact that I saw this, and this particular post had like 80 comments on it, and people were saying, oh my god, I need to get some, this would be amazing for me, blah, blah, blah. And I went to look at how much this thing costs. I don't have the screenshot here, but if I remember correctly, one bottle of this costs like somewhere like $100. So imagine spending $100 on something that they claim to make you lose weight just by consuming it. Now, if you're a student in the Made to Excel Fitness University of Hard Knocks of Common Sense, and you are trying to get your bachelor's degree in common sense, you should know that calories is the number one thing. So this is why people push calories so hard. You cannot lose weight unless you are in a calorie deficit. And I don't want to say that as it's simple to do. This is something that is simple in concept but difficult in execution. Golf, simple in concept, game, difficult in execution. The concept of the game is you're going to hit this little white ball a bunch of times until you get it in the hole. But of course, if you have ever tried to hit a golf ball, it's very, very difficult. So simple in concept, difficult in execution. Being in a calorie deficit, simple in concept, difficult in execution. It's very difficult to count calories. It's very difficult to be precise in the things that you're eating. It's very difficult because people have different motivation levels and they'll fall off and do different things. So it's not something that I want to come off as being easy to do. It's not easy to do, especially if you've had lots of hard times already on your weight loss journey, on your fitness journey. It's something that's going to take time, effort, and practice. Eventually you'll get it, but it's not something that you can just pick up and start doing immediately, at least really well on a high functioning level. So now knowing that information, oh yeah, here it is, one-time purchase, $99.99, and I'm sure that's only one bottle. I don't know how many servings are in the bottle. I did have it. But yeah, so if knowing that calories are the main thing, imagine that you spend $100 on this particular product and you're still in a calorie surplus, right? You're in a caloric surplus. You are supposed to eat X amount of calories and you're way over that. Drinking this particular product is not going to negate the fact that you're in a calorie surplus. You're still going to gain weight. So if people are taking this product and it's working for them, it's because they're in a calorie surplus, and they may be attaining this, or they may be giving the credit to this product, even though it's just the fact that they're in a calorie surplus. So this is 100% a thing, and this is just an example of something that's like a pyramid scheme, right? There's people that are ambassadors for this particular product, and they're selling this particular product. The product is no good. I'm going to tell you that right now. The product is no good. And if you're a member, if you're a student of the Made to Excel Fitness University of Hard Knocks of Common Sense, you already know this. The product is no good. But then they have ambassadors that are selling this product. Now, unfortunately for these ambassadors, they probably don't know that this product is no good because they're not fitness people. They're just regular people with different jobs, different occupations, all that fun stuff. So these people are getting told by other people, this product does this, this, and that. But you can make money selling this product if you can sell it to all your friends. So now this is how pyramid schemes kind of start to show up, right? It's kind of like Avon. Well, I don't know if Avon's technically a pyramid scheme, but they have different ambassadors that sell their product. But you making these different scientific claims about this product could be dangerous, right? Not that anybody's doing this with malicious intent. They're not specifically trying to misinform you and sell you something that they know doesn't work. A lot of these bottom level people that are just ambassadors that are trying to sell you product, because I know this is a fact because somebody that I know on Facebook started selling this product. They don't know that this is not a good product. The people at the top, maybe they know, and those people are dickheads. But the lower level people, they don't know that they're selling a product that is bogus, but that is how these pyramid schemes start to work. And then you start to reach out, and say, hey, you can make money selling this product too. And that's how these products kind of get off the ground, and they get lots of people to spend lots of money on their products. But that's how that starts. So that was the first thing in the Made to Excel Fitness University of Hard Knocks of Common Sense. I've said that way too many times. The second thing, John Morant, NBA player, said that he's put on 12 pounds of muscle over the last 3 months ahead of the NBA restart. I would just like to say right now, that's impossible. He probably put on 12 pounds of mass, not 12 pounds of solid muscle. If you are a beginner, you can put on muscle really quickly. But if you've been training for a long time, like I'm assuming John Morant has trained for a very long time, he's not a newbie. He's been in the NBA, or he's been playing high-level basketball throughout college in the NBA. So he is a trained individual. It's impossible for him to put on 12 pounds of muscle in 3 months, 2 months, however long it's been. So if you're looking at that because it was on ESPN or Bleacher Report, whichever of the two, you're like, oh my God, I can put on 12 pounds of muscle in 3 months. That ain't gonna happen either. Putting on muscle is a very slow process. You'd be lucky to put on a pound of muscle every couple months, especially if you're a person that has trained that is not a beginner. Beginners can probably put on muscle very quickly, but that beginner level leaves you very quickly as well. So once you begin to be an intermediate, advanced fitness person, lifter, weightlifter, workout person, exerciser, the gains are going to come slower and slower. So John Morant did not gain 12 pounds of solid muscle. He probably gained 12 pounds of mass, and inevitably some of that is muscle, but not 12 pounds straight of muscle. And last but not least, Blake Griffin was on the Armchair Expert podcast with Dax Shepard, and I really liked one of the things that he said because Dax asked him about his diet, I think. And Blake Griffin said that he said as a kid growing up, he was always very healthy. He was always, his parents always promoted for him to eat really clean foods, and he's taken that through his adulthood, obviously NBA superstar. But one of the things that he said was, I don't know if he said it was the last season or a few seasons prior, leading up to the playoffs, he said, for this entire season, I'm going to be as clean as possible. I'm going to eat the best I can possibly eat. And he said he did that for a long period of time, and eventually got to a point right before the playoffs where he broke and he started to kind of fall off the wagon a little bit. And he said himself, in his own words, he said, yeah, I tried that, but obviously you need a little bit of kind of a release at some point. You're not going to be perfect 100% of the time. And I concur that statement, Blake Griffin. That was a perfect statement, a perfect way to end off this podcast. Listen, if you enjoyed today's podcast, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, leave a review. Send me a question for the next Q&A. I'm already at 30 minutes, so I'm not going to do the Q&A this week. But leave me a question. I will get to your question eventually. Follow me on Instagram. That way I don't cry myself to sleep tonight. MTE Fit. Follow me on Facebook. Made to Excel Fitness Apparel. I think you can just find it as Made to Excel Fitness. Subscribe to the show. I think I already said that. I appreciate and love you all. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.
What's up, Mark? How you doing, man? Hunter Henry, LA Charger tight end. Best big time shout out to your fitness podcast, the Made to Excel Fitness podcast. So super cool, man. You got a lot going on. Bolt Ganger, don't bang.